Breathe. Rainbow. You hear that?
What?
Breathe away. Pour the love. Pour it.
Take a deep breath.
She's just stuck. Like in a dream.
Ever had a dream that felt so real, you thought you were away?
What happened?
You don't remember anything last night, huh?
What is it?
Mr. Army? So now we have to break out of the house that we just broke into?
Reminisce with the ways you're gonna die.
Whoever comes, whoever it is,
You have to help me.
My father used to read this to me when I was a kid. Good night, moon. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light in the red balloon. Good night, nobody.
Are you okay?
No.
anyone.
Are you scared?
I'm angry.
All you have to do is keep going. Just going and going and going.
We'll go on to the end. We'll fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender.
The fate of the universe lies on your shoulders.
What are you waiting for?
Shall we?
I need someone to show me the place.
Anna's naked man.
In 3, 2.
You never saw me.
Do you want to be normal? Do you want to be just like everyone else? Nobody normal ever accomplished anything meaningful in this world. Stop! Who was that? I think it was a person.
Sorry, kid. It's not a hug. I'm just grabbing the phone for you. All right, kid. Good luck out there.
No one ever made a difference by being like everyone else.